Syncretism through the ages. A modern take. Syncretism, the blending of diverse philosophical, cultural, or religious traditions, has been a cornerstone of intellectual development throughout human history. From the earliest philosophical inquiries to contemporary global discourse, syncretism has been both celebrated for its ability to innovate and criticized for its potential to dilute core principles. We will explore how influential thinkers have approached syncretism across different eras, illustrating its evolution and significance with detailed examples. Ancient Greek roots. Plato, a fusion of myth and philosophy. Plato's Academy, one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world, exemplified a syncretic approach by encouraging the study of diverse traditions. For instance, his dialogues frequently incorporate elements of Egyptian and Persian cosmologies. In his work, Timaeus, Plato integrates Greek mythological narratives with speculative cosmology, bridging the gap between metaphysical concepts and cultural storytelling. His theory of forms, which suggests the existence of perfect immutable ideals beyond the physical world, reflects influences from Pythagorean mathematical ideals and Eastern metaphysical thought. Aristotle, synthesizing predecessors' insights. Aristotle's works reveal an expansive syncretism, pulling together ideas from Plato, the pre-Socratics, and empirical observation. For instance, his development of formal logic in Organon builds on Parmenides' principles of being while incorporating Heraclitus' emphasis on change and flux. In politics, Aristotle combines Platonic ideals of governance with practical insights derived from observing diverse political systems, such as the oligarchies of Sparta and democratic structures in Athens. His classification of living organisms reflects a syncretic methodology, blending empirical observation with philosophical speculation. Ancient Eastern perspectives. Buddha, integrating Indian traditions. The Buddha's teachings represent a synthesis of pre-existing Indian philosophies, including Upanishadic thought and Jain practices. For instance, the concept of anatman, no self, directly challenges the Upanishadic doctrine of an eternal soul while incorporating meditative practices from Jain asceticism. As Buddhism spread across Asia, it absorbed elements of local traditions. The fusion of Indian Buddhist teachings with Chinese Taoist ideas resulted in the emergence of Zen Buddhism, which emphasizes simplicity and intuitive insight over doctrinal rigidity. Confucius, a harmonization of Chinese thought. Confucius, building on earlier Chinese traditions, wove together ideas from the I Ching, Book of Changes, Taoist naturalism, and Mohist utilitarian ethics. His concept of Li, ritual propriety, draws from ancient ancestral worship while integrating the moral philosophy of Ren, benevolence, to create a system that guides interpersonal and societal harmony. Later developments, such as Neo-Confucianism under Zhu Xi, incorporated Buddhist metaphysics and Taoist cosmology, demonstrating the evolving syncretic nature of Confucian thought. Modern philosophical perspectives on syncretism. Cultural and intellectual enrichment. Philosophers argue that syncretism fosters innovation by blending diverse traditions. For example, the Harlem Renaissance was a cultural movement that exemplified syncretism, merging African American heritage with European literary and artistic techniques. In philosophy, Ludwig Wittgenstein's work synthesizes logical positivism and language theory with influences from Eastern mysticism, particularly in his later writings like Philosophical Investigations. Interfaith dialogue and tolerance. Syncretism has been vital in fostering interfaith dialogue. Initiatives such as the Parliament of the World's Religions, which began in 1893, brought together leaders from Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism, emphasizing shared ethical principles. For instance, Swami Vivekananda's speech at the First Parliament highlighted the commonalities between Vedantic Hinduism and Christian mysticism, paving the way for broader interfaith engagement. Ethical pluralism. Martha Nussbaum's work demonstrates the benefits of ethical pluralism. In her capabilities approach, she integrates Aristotelian ethics with liberal humanist principles to address global issues like poverty and gender inequality. For example, her framework has been applied in policymaking to ensure that marginalized groups receive opportunities to flourish, regardless of cultural or religious differences. Political syncretism. Political thinkers like Antonio Gramsci have demonstrated the power of syncretism in political theory. Gramsci's concept of cultural hegemony draws from Marxist economic theory while incorporating insights from Italian intellectual traditions and Christian morality. Similarly, modern welfare systems, such as those in Scandinavia, reflect a syncretic blend of capitalist market structures and socialist principles, ensuring both economic growth and social safety nets. Holistic understanding. Syncretism facilitates a more comprehensive understanding of complex phenomena. In environmental philosophy, thinkers like Arne Naess, the founder of Deep Ecology, integrate scientific insights with indigenous ecological wisdom to promote sustainable practices. This syncretic approach encourages collaboration between Western environmental science and traditional knowledge systems, such as the Maori concept of kaitiakitanga, guardianship of the environment. Critiques and challenges of syncretism. Critics of syncretism argue that it risks superficiality. For instance, the New Age movement has been criticized for appropriating elements of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Native American spirituality without respecting their cultural or historical contexts. Another example is the commodification of yoga, which often strips it of its philosophical roots in favor of commercialized fitness practices. Additionally, some worry that syncretism can obscure the distinctiveness of individual traditions. Fundamentalist movements across religions often emerge as reactions against perceived syncretic tendencies, as seen in the resistance to reforms within both Hinduism and Islam during the colonial period. Defending syncretism, philosophical rebuttals, creative synthesis. Proponents argue that syncretism enables creative innovation. For example, the fusion of African, European, and Native American music styles gave rise to jazz, a genre that embodies syncretism's power to create something entirely new and impactful. Respectful integration. Respectful syncretism emphasizes dialogue. Efforts such as the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission demonstrate how integrating indigenous practices of restorative justice with Western legal principles can lead to meaningful reconciliation. Dynamic evolution. Syncretism allows traditions to evolve. The Vatican II reforms in Catholicism illustrate how syncretism can modernize religious practices, incorporating contemporary language and ecumenical dialogue to remain relevant in a changing world. The modern era. Leibniz, reconciliation of philosophical traditions. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz sought to reconcile Cartesian rationalism, Aristotelian scholasticism, and Platonism. His concept of monads, as described in monadology, integrates metaphysical ideas with theological concerns, offering a syncretic view of the universe as both rationally ordered and divinely inspired. Leibniz's efforts to mediate between Protestants and Catholics during the Reformation also highlight his commitment to syncretic harmony. Kant, bridging rationalism and empiricism. Immanuel Kant's critique of pure reason exemplifies syncretism by synthesizing rationalist and empiricist traditions. His work balances the rationalist emphasis on innate structures of the mind with the empiricist focus on sensory experience, creating a unified framework that has profoundly influenced epistemology and metaphysics. Contemporary perspectives. Alasdair MacIntyre, Tradition as Context. MacIntyre's critique of syncretism focuses on the importance of understanding philosophical ideas within their historical and cultural contexts. For example, in After Virtue, he argues that the ethical frameworks of Aristotle and Nietzsche are incompatible as they arise from distinct traditions that cannot be seamlessly integrated without losing their depth and coherence. Martha Nussbaum, Global Ethics. Conversely, Nussbaum's work advocates for a cosmopolitan approach, integrating Stoic ideas of universal human dignity with feminist critiques of traditional ethics. Her emphasis on global justice underscores the potential of syncretism to address contemporary challenges. Psychological perspectives. Carl Jung. Carl Jung's work on archetypes and the collective unconscious represents a psychological dimension of syncretism. Jung discovered common themes and symbols across mythologies, religions, and cultures, arguing that these shared elements reveal universal psychological structures. For example, the archetype of the hero, found in stories ranging from the Odyssey to Native American folklore and modern superhero films, reflects a universal pattern of struggle, transformation, and triumph. Jung's The Red Book synthesizes Christian, Gnostic, and Eastern mystical traditions, blending them with his psychological theories. His concept of the self, representing the integration of the conscious and unconscious, echoes Taoist notions of balance, yin-yang, and Indian ideas of unity in the divine, Atman. Jung's syncretic approach to psychology opened pathways for the integration of mythological and cultural narratives into therapeutic practices, offering tools for personal and collective transformation. William H. Poteet, Dialogical Integration. William H. Poteet emphasized syncretism as a means of fostering dialogue and intellectual growth. His philosophy focused on transcending the rigid boundaries between schools of thought to create a more dynamic understanding of human existence. Poteet drew heavily on the work of Michael Polanyi and Søren Kierkegaard, blending existentialism, phenomenology, and epistemology into a holistic framework. For instance, Poteet's critique of modern rationalism in works like Polanyian Meditations explores the interplay between embodied experience and intellectual abstraction. By integrating Eastern meditative practices with Western existential thought, Poteet argued for a philosophy that embraces lived experience as foundational. His ideas resonate with contemporary efforts to bridge neuroscience and contemplative traditions in understanding consciousness. Jung and Hick, Religious Pluralism and Syncretism. Jung and Hick was a prominent advocate of religious pluralism and syncretism. He argued that all major religious traditions offer different paths to the same ultimate reality, which he termed the real. In his book, An Interpretation of Religion, Hick likened these traditions to facets of a diamond, each reflecting a different perspective on the divine. Hick's philosophy promoted interfaith understanding by highlighting shared ethical values and spiritual goals across traditions. For example, he compared Christian agape, love, Buddhist karuna, compassion, and Islamic rahma, mercy, to illustrate how religions converge on universal principles. His work also inspired practical initiatives such as interfaith dialogue programs aimed at reducing religious conflict and fostering mutual respect. André Drugas, Challenging Religious Purity. André Drugas explored syncretism as a dynamic force in religious and cultural evolution. He argued that syncretism challenges rigid notions of religious purity and orthodoxy, emphasizing its potential for adaptability. For instance, Afro-Caribbean religions like Santeria and Vodou blend African spiritual practices with Catholic iconography, creating rich, syncretic traditions that reflect the resilience of enslaved African communities. Drugas also critiqued the term syncretism for its colonial connotations, suggesting it has often been used to delegitimize indigenous or hybrid traditions. Instead, he proposed viewing syncretism as a creative process that allows communities to navigate cultural encounters and preserve their identities in transformative ways. Patrick Fridlund and Mika Vehakangas, Philosophical and Theological Responses. In their work, Philosophical and Theological Responses to Syncretism, Patrick Fridlund and Mika Vehakangas explore how syncretism can be a tool for creative engagement with diverse traditions. They challenge the binary opposition between pure and mixed traditions, arguing that syncretism is not a compromise but an opportunity for innovation. One example they discuss is the development of liberation theology, which combines Catholic social teachings with Marxist analysis to address systemic inequality in Latin America. This fusion illustrates how syncretism can produce powerful frameworks for addressing contemporary issues. Fridlund and Vehakangas also highlight the role of syncretism in global theology, where insights from African and Asian traditions enrich Christian theological discourse. Epilogue. Walking in wisdom. Syncretism has shaped human thought, enriching philosophy, culture, and religion through the blending of diverse traditions. While it has faced criticism for potential superficiality and cultural appropriation, its defenders highlight its capacity for innovation, dialogue, and holistic understanding. As our world grows more interconnected, embracing syncretism offers a pathway toward fostering empathy, creativity, and resilience in the face of complexity. From Plato's Academy to modern ethical pluralism, the story of syncretism is a testament to the enduring power of integrating diverse perspectives. Let us walk in wisdom, embracing diverse perspectives which work for us in our everyday lives.